But that is the window to reach our purpose, which is to become enlightened, to realize the nature of reality. You see that word realize is to experience reality, to see it. Not theorize, not conceptualize, to see it. Cognizant. It's in a humanoid body that we have now that we can do this. This life is extremely precious, but we don't have any cognizance of that. We waste so much time on stupid things. Gossip, fashion, TV shows, harmful friends, wasteful activities. And the Buddha about this said something very profound. If we imagine that our life has about 100 years, he said half of life is taken with sleep. 50 years gone that we sleep. 10 years are spent in childhood. You can't self-realize when you're under the age of 10, unless you're already a great master. Out of the remaining 20 years, sorrow, complaining, pain, and agitation eliminate much time, and hundreds of physical illnesses destroy much more. Look at the math. If you are so fortunate to live to 100, which is rare, half of that life is spent in sleep. That leaves you 50 years. 10 to 20 years in childhood, because really nowadays, once we reach 10, we're a child, but most of us remain totally immature till we're in our 20s. Most of us at 10 have no sense of responsibility at all. I think in Asia, it was different. My spouse is Asian. By the time she was 7 and 8 years old, she was cooking for a family of 10 or 12. She was cooking for them every day. I don't know any American or European kid that does that. Even when they're in their 20s, they are lazy. They don't do anything. All they want is Facebook and video games. That's it. They have no sense of responsibility. They're not mature. So we can say this 10 years of childhood, really nowadays it's 20. Look in your own life and you can see. When did you grow up and start taking things seriously? Probably in your 20s. So that's 70 years out right there. Another 20 lost in old age. When you're old, all you're dealing with is getting through the day. You have all kinds of aches and pains. Your mind is set, very crystallized in habits. It's very difficult to think clearly. And then you've got a remaining, he says 20 years. I think nowadays it's less than 10. In which sorrow, complaining, pain, and agitation eliminate a lot of time. Look at your own life. How much time do you spend sad, complaining about things, in pain, or agitated? Probably all of it. Right? When we're honest. Probably all of our time. And then the rest of the time we're sick. So where in that equation is there time to have an equanimity psychologically and to practice spiritually? A few seconds? A few hours over a whole life? It's not much. And to cap this off, we're going to die, and we don't know when. Do you understand what I'm trying to impart to you? Motivation. Get motivated. Wake up. Pay attention to the realities of life. It is not a game. Life's not about just getting more toys and getting more possessions. To the Gnostic, life is about getting less. We all have this cultural phenomena nowadays about becoming something more. And we get it from when we're born. Our parents want us to be doctors and lawyers or great politicians. And then when we get into spiritual life, we want to be a great teacher, a great master, a great writer. We want to be more and more and more. This is all ego. When you become very serious about your spiritual practice, what you really need is to become less. less. And this is why in traditional practice, people renounced everything. They gave up everything, owned nothing, and gave away anything that was given to them. When the Tibetans were persecuted, being killed and driven out of Tibet, they were dealing with this very profoundly. And I've spoken with some people who arrived in India still very uncertain about the future because they had no place to go. They were refugees. They had nothing. Everything was taken from them. But were so serious about their practice that even when local Indians gave them tea, which they all love to drink tea, the Tibetans would take that tea and give it to somebody else. They owned nothing, just the clothes on their backs. But their devotion to practice was so serious, they didn't even want to own the little brick of tea. And said, no, thank you. Give the tea to somebody else. You have it, enjoy it. I don't want any attachment because I could die today. I don't want to be attached to anything because at the moment of death, I don't want to be thinking, oh, my tea. But that's the way we are. We would think of those insignificant, foolish things at the moment of death, right? All of us. How much attachments do we have? We're attached to clothes, to money, to people, to places, to things. A lot. Every one of those attachments represents the potential to corrupt our process of death. If you want to reach a perfect death, you must have attachment to nothing but God. Your attention fully 100% on reaching union with clear light, which is God, the absolute. It means if you, in that moment, remember, I left my keys in the counter. I didn't pay the bill for electricity. That will corrupt your death. I know they sound silly, but it happens. When people die, stupid things come in your mind, just like they do now. Don't think that you'll be able to control everything that's going on with you psychologically when you die. It's very traumatic and difficult experience in most cases. You need to do a lot of preparation to not have that happen to you. What we're trying to do in this process is to avoid what's shown in this painting of the couples having sexual union. In a quick synthesis of what happens when we die, the energy that was projected through our lifespan is a mass of cause and effect. It is energy, light, consciousness projected through eternity. And at the moment of death, that energy will pass through transformation in order to go to another phase. It is a great cycle. That doorway is very powerfully influenced by our state of mind, by what we think and feel when we die. And this is why in the ancient traditions of preparing someone for death, the presence of relatives is very important. How that presence is managed. Because if the relatives are there crying, oh, he's dying, don't go, don't. That person who's dying will not have equilibrium. They will not. If you are encountering or dealing with someone who's dying, do not do that. They need love and encouragement. They need peace. They need serenity and strength. And if you're crying and attached and in pain, you will corrupt their process of death. We're going to talk about that in a later lecture in detail. If you have thoughts of, at the moment you die and you're remembering your car and you love your car, that will affect it. If you have attachment to a person, a spouse, a child, someone that you fantasized about during your life, if those things come in your mind, it will affect the process of your death. If you die angry, if you die afraid, those qualities modify the velocity and function of that light stream as it passes through the between. That's what's represented here.